Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished checking the mining equipment. The deep space station where he worked was quiet today. Too quiet. After 15 years as a Marine and 5 years mining asteroids, Marcus could feel when something was wrong. He walked to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. This place sat right at the edge of human space, close to where the Zephyrian Empire controlled things. Most people stayed away from this area. The Zephyrians did not like humans much. Humans did not like them either. The two species had been fighting small wars for 20 years. Nothing big enough to destroy either side, but enough to keep everyone angry and scared. Marcus had fought in 3 of those wars before he got tired of killing and decided to mine rocks instead. A red light flashed on his control panel. Marcus ran over to check what was happening. The computer showed him a ship in trouble. It was sending out a distress signal. The ship was Zephyrian. Marcus stared at the screen. He could see the ship clearly now. It was fancy with gold and silver decorations. A royal ship, the kind that carried important people. Around it, 3 smaller ships were attacking. Pirates. Marcus knew he should ignore this. Zephyrians were enemies. If their important people died, that was good for humans. That is what most people would think. That is what his old Marine friends would say. But Marcus could not watch people die when he could help them. He ran to his mining ship. It was not built for fighting, but Marcus had made some changes over the years. He added stronger shields and a few weapons. Nothing fancy, but enough to scare off small pirates who sometimes tried to steal from miners. Marcus started his ship and flew toward the battle. As he got closer, he could see the royal ship was badly damaged. Holes in the hull leaked air into space. The pirates were getting ready to board it. Marcus turned on his radio. "Pirates ships, this is Commander Chen. Leave that ship alone and fly away. You have 10 seconds. The pirates laughed at him through the radio. "Go away, human. This is not your business. We will kill you too if you do not leave." Marcus did not answer with words. Instead, he fired his mining laser at the nearest pirate ship. The laser was made to cut through solid rock. It went through the pirate ship like a hot knife through butter. The ship exploded. The other 2 pirate ships turned to attack Marcus. They had real weapons, not mining tools. Laser bolts and missiles flew at his ship. Marcus used every trick he had learned in the Marines. He spun his ship and dodged between asteroids. He used the mining equipment in ways it was never meant to be used. One pirate ship got too close. Marcus grabbed it with his mining claw and smashed it against an asteroid. The ship broke apart like an egg. The last pirate ship fired everything it had at Marcus. His shields failed. A missile hit his engine. Another blast tore a hole in his hull. Air started leaking out. Marcus felt blood running down his face from where he hit his head. But he did not give up. Marcus flew his damaged ship straight at the last pirate. At the last second, he fired his emergency thrusters and rammed the pirate ship. Both ships spun out of control. The pirate ship's engine exploded. Marcus's ship barely held together. Marcus looked at his instruments. His ship was dying, but the pirates were gone. The royal ship was safe. He put on his spacesuit and used his emergency thruster pack to fly over to the Zephyrian ship. The hull had several holes in it. Marcus found an airlock that still worked and went inside. The inside of the ship was beautiful. Everything was made of materials Marcus had never seen before. The walls seemed to glow with their own light. But the beauty was ruined by the damage from the attack. Marcus found bodies of Zephyrian guards. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes. All of them were dead. Marcus had seen dead Zephyrians before, but it still made him sad. They looked so much like humans in some ways. He followed the emergency lights toward the center of the ship. There he found a room with doors made of some kind of crystal. Inside, a young Zephyrian female lay on the floor. She was still alive, but barely. Marcus had never seen a Zephyrian up close who was not trying to kill him. This one was beautiful in a strange way. Her skin was lighter blue than the guards, almost white. Her hair was silver and seemed to move by itself. She wore clothes covered in jewels that sparkled like stars, but she was dying. Marcus could see the signs. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin had turned from blue to gray. Foam came from her mouth. Marcus checked his suit's computer. It told him she had been poisoned. The pirates must have used poison gas when they attacked. The computer said the poison was called Zerion. It killed Zephyrians quickly. There was no cure. But Marcus remembered something from his Marine training. Human blood could neutralize Zerion, It was one of the few things human bodies did better than Zephyrian bodies, but the process was dangerous. The human would need to give a lot of blood, sometimes too much. Marcus looked at the dying princess. He did not know who she was, but he could tell she was important. Maybe she was even royalty. He could let her die. No one would blame him. She was an enemy, but Marcus had saved people his whole life. He could not stop now. He took off his helmet and gloves. The air in the ship was thin but breathable. Marcus found the ship's medical bay. The equipment was different from human machines, but he could figure out how it worked. Marcus set up a blood transfusion system. He connected tubes to his arm and to the princess's arm. Then he started the machine. His blood flowed into her body. At first, nothing happened. Then slowly her gray skin began to turn blue again. Her breathing got stronger. Marcus felt weak as more of his blood left his body. The machine beeped a warning. Marcus had given too much blood. He was in danger now, but the princess was not fully healed yet. She needed more. Marcus ignored the warning and kept the transfusion going. His vision got blurry. His hands shook. He felt cold and sick. Finally, the princess opened her eyes. They were bright purple like jewels. She looked at Marcus with confusion and fear. Then she saw the tubes connecting them. She understood what he had done. She tried to say something, but Marcus could not hear her. The world was spinning around him. He had given too much blood. His heart was slowing down. Marcus fell to the floor. As darkness closed in around him, he thought about his family back on Earth. He hoped they would understand why he did this. He hoped they would be proud that he tried to save someone, even an enemy. The last thing Marcus saw was the princess reaching toward him with tears in her purple eyes. Then everything went black. When the Zephyrian rescue ships arrived 3 hours later, they found something impossible. A human who had given his life to save their princess, and somehow, against all odds, both of them were still alive. The princess held Marcus's hand as the medical teams worked on both of them. She whispered something in her language that the translators could not understand. But the doctors who heard it said later that it sounded like a promise. Marcus Chen had risked everything to save an alien princess. Now his real adventure was about to begin. Marcus woke up slowly. Everything felt strange. The bed he was lying on was too soft. The air smelled different. The gravity felt wrong. When he opened his eyes, he saw a ceiling that seemed to be made of living light. He tried to sit up, but his body would not obey him. Tubes and wires connected him to machines he had never seen before. The machines hummed and glowed with soft colors. "Do not move too much," a voice said. Marcus turned his head and saw a Zephyrian doctor. She was tall and thin like all her people, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. "You have been very sick. Our machines are keeping you alive." Marcus tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. The doctor gave him water from a cup that seemed to be made of crystal. The water tasted strange but good. "Where am I?" Marcus asked when he could speak. "You are on Zephyros Prime, the home world of our people. You are in the Royal Medical Center. The best doctors in the galaxy are taking care of you." Marcus remembered what had happened. The pirate attack. The dying princess. The blood transfusion. Is she alive? The princess. The doctor smiled. It was strange to see a Zephyrian smile. Marcus had only seen them angry or afraid before. "Princess Lyrelei is fine. She visits you every day. You saved her life." Over the next few days, Marcus learned that he was famous. The story of the human who saved the Zephyrian princess had spread across the galaxy. Some humans called him a traitor. Some Zephyrians called him a hero. Most people just called him crazy. Princess Lyrelei came to see him every morning. She would sit by his bed and talk to him. At first, Marcus was nervous. She was the enemy. But as they talked, he realized she was not what he expected. She was young, maybe 20 in human years. She was curious about everything. She asked Marcus hundreds of questions about human culture, human history, and human ideas. She seemed to find humans fascinating. "Why did you save me?" she asked one day. "Your people and my people are enemies." Marcus thought about this, because it was the right thing to do. "You were innocent. You did not deserve to die. But I am Zephyrian. We have killed many humans. You have not killed anyone. You are not responsible for what others do." This seemed to confuse her. "In our culture, we are all responsible for our people's actions. If one Zephyrian does something, all Zephyrians share the honor or shame." Marcus shook his head. "Humans believe everyone is responsible for their own choices. You choose to be good or evil, Your family or your people cannot make that choice for you. Princess Lyrelai thought about this for a long time. That is a strange idea, but I like it. They talked about many things. Marcus told her about Earth, about human families, about the wars he had fought in. She told him about Zephyrian culture, about their long history, about their beliefs. Marcus learned that Zephyrians valued logic and order above everything else. They planned everything carefully. They did not like surprises or changes. This was very different from humans, who seemed to love chaos and doing unexpected things. That is why you confused the pirates, Princess Lyrelai said. They expected you to run away or call for help. They did not expect you to attack them alone. No Zephyrian would do something so illogical. Sometimes being illogical is the most logical thing to do, Marcus said. The princess laughed. It was a sound like silver bells ringing. You humans say the strangest things, but somehow they make sense. After 2 weeks, Marcus was strong enough to walk around. The medical center was huge and beautiful. Everything was made of materials that seemed to glow from the inside. The corridors were wide and tall, decorated with art that moved and changed as you looked at it. Marcus met other patients in the medical center. Some were Zephyrian nobles who had been injured in accidents. Others were diplomats from different alien species. All of them stared at Marcus like he was some kind of strange animal. They have never seen a human before, Princess Lyrelai explained. Most Zephyrians think humans are primitive and violent, but you are changing their minds. On his 3rd week in the medical center, everything changed. Princess Lyrelai came to visit Marcus, but she looked worried and scared. My mother is coming, she said. Queen Valestra. She will be here tomorrow. Marcus had heard of Queen Valestra. She ruled the entire Zephyrian Empire. She was said to be brilliant and ruthless. She had never lost a war or made a mistake. Most humans were terrified of her. What does she want? Marcus asked. She wants to see the human who saved her daughter. She wants to repay the debt. What debt? Princess Lyrelai looked uncomfortable. In our culture, when someone saves your life, you owe them a life debt. The debt must be repaid with something of equal value. Since you saved the life of a princess, the debt is very large. I do not want anything. I just want to go home. I will tell her that, but my mother does not like simple solutions. The next day, Queen Valestra arrived. Marcus heard her coming before he saw her. The whole medical center became quiet. Doctors and nurses bowed as she passed. When she entered Marcus's room, he understood why people feared her. She was taller than other Zephyrians, with skin so pale it was almost white. Her eyes were silver instead of the usual purple. She wore robes that seemed to be made of starlight, but what made her truly frightening was the way she looked at Marcus, like he was a puzzle she needed to solve, like he was something interesting but dangerous. So, she said in perfect English, you are the human who saved my daughter. Yes, Your Majesty. Do you know what you have done? Do you understand the implications? Marcus did not understand what she meant, but he tried to answer honestly. I saved someone who was dying. That is all. Queen Valestra walked around his bed, studying him from every angle. You have created a debt that cannot be easily repaid. You have also created a political problem. Some of my people think I should kill you to prevent humans from using this incident for propaganda. Others think I should make you a hero to show Zephyrian gratitude. I just want to go home to Earth. That is what my daughter told me you would say. Very well, I will arrange transport for you. Consider the debt repaid. But as the queen turned to leave, Princess Lyrelai spoke up. Mother, wait. There is something else. Something the doctors discovered. Queen Valestra stopped. What? The princess looked at Marcus with sad eyes. The blood transfusion did more than save my life. It created a biological bond between us. Our life forces are now connected. Marcus felt cold. What does that mean? Queen Valestra's eyes narrowed. She had not known about this. Explain. The human blood mixed with Zephyrian blood in ways the doctors have never seen before, Princess Lyrelai said. Our immune systems, our nervous systems, even our brain chemistry are now linked. If we are separated by more than a few star systems, both of us will begin to die. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Queen Valestra began to laugh. It was not a happy sound. How wonderfully complicated, she said. It seems, human, that your simple act of heroism has trapped you here. You cannot go home without killing my daughter, and I cannot let my daughter die. Marcus stared at the queen and the princess. His dream of going home to Earth suddenly seemed very far away. How long? He asked. The doctors are not sure, Princess Lyrelai said. Maybe forever. Queen Valestra smiled, but it was the smile of a predator. "It seems you will be staying with us, Marcus Chen. I hope you will find your time here educational." As the Queen left the room, Marcus realized his life had just become much more complicated. He was no longer a hero who saved a princess. He was a prisoner who could never escape. Marcus's new home was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Queen Valestra gave him rooms in the royal palace that were bigger than most houses on Earth. The walls were made of crystal that changed colors with his mood. The furniture looked like it was carved from solid light. He had servants who brought him anything he wanted, but he was still a prisoner. Guards followed him everywhere. They were polite and respectful, but they never left him alone. The guards looked like statues made of metal and light. Marcus learned they were called sentinels. They did not sleep, did not eat, and never got tired. Think of them as protection, not guards. Princess Lyrelay said when Marcus complained, "There are people who want to hurt you." "What people?" "Zephyrians who think humans are dangerous. Humans who think you are a traitor. Other alien species who want to study you. My mother has many enemies who would use you to hurt her." Marcus understood, but he still felt trapped. Every morning he woke up hoping this was all a dream. Every morning he remembered it was real. Princess Lyrelay visited him every day. She was the only person in the palace who treated him like a friend instead of a curiosity. They would walk in the royal gardens, eat meals together, and talk about their different worlds. "What is Earth like?" she asked one day as they sat by a fountain that played music. Crowded, noisy, beautiful in a messy way. Marcus thought about his home. Everything grows wild. Nothing is planned perfectly like here. People argue and fight and make mistakes, but they also laugh and love and create amazing things, and it sounds chaotic. It is. But that chaos makes life interesting. When everything is planned perfectly, nothing surprising ever happens. Princess Lyrelay seemed to like this idea. Marcus noticed she was changing. When he first met her, she was very formal and careful. Now she asked questions that sometimes shocked her own people. She wanted to know about human art, human music, human ways of thinking. "You are teaching her dangerous ideas," Queen Valestra said when she summoned Marcus to her throne room. The throne room was huge. The ceiling was so high Marcus could not see it. The queen sat on a throne made of what looked like frozen starlight. Around her stood advisors and nobles, all watching Marcus with curious eyes. "What dangerous ideas?" Marcus asked. "You teach her that individuals can choose their own path, that people should question authority, that chaos and disorder can be good things. These ideas could destroy our society." Marcus looked around the throne room. Everything was perfect and orderly. Every person knew exactly where to stand and what to do. It was impressive, but it felt dead. "Maybe your society needs some changes," Marcus said. The throne room became completely silent. No one had ever said such a thing to the queen before. Queen Valestra's silver eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Explain," she said in a voice that could freeze fire. Marcus knew he was in danger, but he also knew he had to be honest. "Your people are brilliant. You have created incredible technology and art. But you never take risks. You never try new things. You are so afraid of making mistakes that you have stopped growing. And humans are better because they make mistakes? Humans are better because they learn from mistakes. Every time we fail, we try something different. Sometimes that leads to disaster. But sometimes it leads to amazing discoveries." Queen Valestra studied Marcus for a long time. "Show me," she said finally. "Show you what?" "Show me how human mistakes lead to discoveries. I am giving you access to our laboratories and workshops. Create something new, something that shows the value of your chaos." This was the first time Queen Valestra had given Marcus any real freedom. He spent the next week exploring the palace laboratories. The Zephyrian technology was far beyond anything humans had. Their computers could think faster than any human brain. Their machines could build things at the molecular level, but everything was designed to work perfectly every time. There was no room for accidents or unexpected results. Marcus decided to build something simple, a communication device that could translate between human and Zephyrian languages. The Zephyrians already had perfect translators, but Marcus wanted to try a different approach. Instead of programming the device to be perfect, Marcus programmed it to make mistakes and learn from them. He gave it access to human art, human jokes, human stories. He taught it that language was not just about perfect translation, but about emotion and meaning. The first results were terrible. The device translated, "I love you as I want to eat your face." It turned a serious diplomatic message into a recipe for soup. The Zephyrian scientists were horrified. "This is exactly why human methods do not work," they said. "Your device is completely unreliable." But Marcus kept working. He let the device make thousands of mistakes. Each mistake taught it something new. Slowly, it began to understand not just words, but feelings and intentions. After 2 weeks, something amazing happened. The device began creating new forms of poetry that mixed human and Zephyrian styles. It wrote jokes that made both species laugh. It found ways to express ideas that neither language had words for. When Marcus demonstrated the device to Queen Valestra, even she seemed impressed. "Interesting," she said. "Your method is inefficient and unpredictable. But the results are unique, and that's the point. Perfect efficiency does not always create the best results." Queen Valestra was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "What else can you teach us?" Over the next month, Marcus worked with Zephyrian scientists and engineers. He showed them human approaches to problem solving. Instead of planning everything perfectly, he taught them to experiment and adapt. The results surprised everyone. Zephyrian technology that had not changed in centuries suddenly began improving rapidly. They created new materials, new weapons, new ships that were better than anything they had built before. But the changes also created problems. Some Zephyrians loved the new ideas, others were terrified of them. Arguments began in the royal court. Some nobles said Marcus was destroying their culture. "Change is always frightening," Princess Lyrily said when Marcus told her about the problems. "But change is also necessary. My people have been the same for too long." Marcus noticed that Princess Lyrily was changing too. She began questioning things she had always accepted. She asked why women could not be warriors. She wondered why the queen made all decisions alone. She started talking about visiting other worlds to learn about other cultures. These changes worried Queen Valestra. "My daughter is becoming rebellious," she told Marcus during one of their meetings. "She questions my orders. She suggests changes to laws that have worked for centuries. She wants to travel to dangerous places. Maybe she is becoming a leader instead of just a follower. A leader who cannot follow orders is useless." Marcus disagreed, but he did not argue. He was learning that Queen Valestra was more complicated than she seemed. She was not evil, just afraid. Afraid of change, afraid of losing control, afraid of making mistakes that could hurt her people. But Marcus was also learning something else. Princess Lyrily was not the only one changing. Queen Valestra was watching everything Marcus did. She was studying human methods and ideas. She was learning, even if she did not want to admit it. The real test came when Zephyrian border scouts detected something in deep space, ships approaching from the edge of the galaxy, ships that belonged to an ancient enemy. "The Devourers have returned," Queen Valestra announced in an emergency meeting. "They are coming to finish what they started 1,000 years ago." Marcus had heard stories about the Devourers. They were a parasitic species that consumed entire civilizations. They adapted to any defense, learned from every battle, and never stopped until their enemies were completely destroyed. "How long until they arrive?" Marcus asked. 6 months, maybe less. Marcus looked around the meeting room. The Zephyrian military leaders looked confident, but Marcus could see fear in their eyes. They were planning to fight the Devourers the same way they had fought them before. With perfect tactics and superior technology, it had not worked 1,000 years ago. It would not work now. "You need a different approach," Marcus said. "We need proven strategies," the military commander replied. "Not human chaos." But Queen Valestra was looking at Marcus with new interest. "Explain your idea." Marcus took a deep breath. He was about to suggest something that would change everything. "The Devourers win because they adapt to your tactics. They learn your patterns and overcome them. But what if your tactics had no patterns? What if your strategies were completely unpredictable? Impossible. Effective military strategy requires planning and coordination. Human military strategy requires adaptation and creativity. Let me show you a different way to fight." Queen Valestra was quiet for a long moment. Then she made a decision that would determine the fate of her empire. "Show us," she said. Marcus stood in the war room looking at holographic displays of the approaching Devourer fleet. The enemy ships were unlike anything he had ever seen. They looked like they were made of living metal that twisted and changed shape as he watched. Each ship was different, as if they had grown instead of being built. They adapt their ships during battle, General Thyros explained. The Zephyrian military commander was tall even for his species, with scars across his pale blue face. If you attack with lasers, their hulls become reflective. If you use missiles, they grow defenses against explosives. By the end of a battle, they are immune to everything you used against them. Marcus studied the tactical data. The last war against the Devourers had lasted 50 years. The Zephyrians had won, but barely. They had lost entire star systems and billions of lives. The victory had cost them so much that their empire still had not fully recovered. How did you beat them before? Marcus asked. We used overwhelming force, General Thyros said. We built the largest fleet in galactic history. We developed weapons they had never seen. We attacked all at once before they could adapt, and now, Queen Valestra answered from her seat at the head of the war table. Now they have returned stronger than before. Our spies report that they have conquered 12 civilizations since our last war. They have learned from each victory. We cannot use the same tactics. Marcus walked around the holographic display, studying the enemy ships from every angle. You are thinking about this wrong. You are trying to be stronger than them. But strength is not the answer. Then what is? General Thyros asked with annoyance in his voice. Confusion, chaos, unpredictability. Marcus pointed at the enemy formation. They adapt by learning patterns. So do not give them patterns to learn. The room filled with angry voices. Zephyrian military officers argued that Marcus did not understand warfare. They said human methods would not work against such a dangerous enemy. They wanted to use proven strategies, but Queen Valestra raised her hand for silence. Explain your plan, human. Marcus took a deep breath. This was his chance to prove that human thinking could save the Zephyrian Empire. But if he was wrong, billions of people would die. On Earth, we have a saying, no plan survives contact with the enemy. So instead of making one perfect plan, we make many different plans. We train our soldiers to think for themselves and adapt to any situation. That sounds like chaos, General Thyros said. It is chaos, but it is controlled chaos. The Devourers cannot adapt to something that is constantly changing. Marcus moved to the tactical display and began showing his ideas. Instead of one massive fleet, he suggested many small groups that could attack from different directions. Instead of standardized weapons, he wanted each ship to carry completely different equipment. Instead of following rigid battle plans, he wanted captains to make their own decisions based on what they saw. This is madness, one officer said. How can we coordinate attacks if every ship is doing something different? You do not coordinate attacks. You coordinate goals. Every captain knows the objective. How they achieve it is up to them. Princess Lyrelei, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. It is like the communication device Marcus built. Instead of programming it to be perfect, he let it learn and adapt. The results were better than anyone expected. General Thyros shook his head. Communication devices and military strategy are not the same thing. The principle is the same, Marcus said. Rigid systems break under pressure. Flexible systems bend and survive. Queen Valestra studied the tactical displays for a long time. Marcus could see her weighing the risks. If she followed traditional Zephyrian strategy and lost, she could blame the enemy's strength. If she tried Marcus's plan and lost, she would be responsible for the destruction of her empire. What do you want in return for this help? She asked finally. Marcus had been thinking about this question for weeks. He could ask for his freedom, but the biological bond with Princess Lyrelei made that impossible. He could ask for wealth or power, but he did not want those things. I want to contact Earth. I want to tell my family that I am alive, and I want some of your scientists to share their knowledge with human researchers. That is all? That is enough. Queen Valestra considered this. Sharing technology with humans would give them an advantage in future conflicts. But if Marcus's plan failed, there might not be any future conflicts to worry about. Agreed. But you will work directly with me on this strategy. If it fails, you will share the responsibility. I understand. Over the next month, Marcus worked with Zephyrian engineers and tacticians to completely redesign their military approach. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. The Zephyrians were brilliant, but they had been thinking the same way for centuries. Teaching them to embrace chaos and unpredictability was like teaching fish to fly. Princess Lyrelei helped translate between human and Zephyrian thinking. She had learned to understand both cultures, and she could explain Marcus's ideas in ways her people could accept. Think of it as an art form. she told the naval architects who were designing new ship classes. Each ship should be a unique creation, not a copy of a standard design. The results were strange and wonderful. Zephyrian shipbuilders created vessels that looked like nothing they had ever built before. Some ships were tiny and fast, designed to attack and disappear. Others were huge and slow, but covered in so many different weapons that enemies would not know what to expect. A few ships had no weapons at all, but carried devices that could confuse enemy sensors or disrupt their communications. Marcus also worked with the Zephyrian military academies to train officers in human-style tactics. This was even harder than designing new ships. Zephyrian officers were trained to follow orders perfectly and never deviate from the plan. Marcus taught them to improvise, adapt, and make quick decisions without asking permission. "What if I make the wrong choice?" one young officer asked during a training exercise. "Then you learn from the mistake and make a better choice next time," Marcus replied. "The only real failure is not trying at all." Many senior officers hated these new methods. They complained to Queen Valestra that Marcus was destroying military discipline. But the Queen supported the changes, especially after seeing test results. In war games against traditional Zephyrian forces, the new chaotic tactics won every time. The traditional forces could not predict what the experimental units would do next. By the time they adapted to one strategy, their opponents had already switched to something completely different. The real test came when Devourer scout ships arrived at the edge of Zephyrian space. These were small vessels designed to study enemy defenses and report back to the main fleet. "Perfect," Marcus said when he saw the sensor reports. "Let them see our new ships and tactics. Let them try to adapt." General Thyros still had doubts. "What if they learn our strategies and prepare countermeasures?" "They cannot prepare for strategies that do not exist yet. Every battle will be different." The first engagement happened near a mining station on the outer rim. 3 Devourer scouts attacked a small convoy of merchant ships. The convoy was defended by 2 Zephyrian warships using Marcus's new tactics. Instead of fighting a standard battle, the Zephyrian captains did something unexpected. One ship pretended to retreat while the other pretended to surrender. When the Devourer scouts moved in to capture the convoy, both ships attacked with weapons that had been hidden inside the merchant vessels. The battle lasted only 10 minutes. All 3 Devourer scouts were destroyed before they could adapt to the deception. "Excellent," Queen Valestra said when she reviewed the battle reports. "But this was only a small engagement. The real test will come when their main fleet arrives." The Devourer fleet reached Zephyrian space 2 weeks later. Long-range sensors showed more than 1,000 ships of various sizes. Some were as large as cities. Others moved so fast they barely appeared on sensors before disappearing again. Marcus stood in the command center watching the enemy approach. Around him, Zephyrian officers prepared for the largest battle in their history. Everyone was nervous, but Marcus noticed something different. Instead of following rigid procedures, the officers were discussing options and adapting their plans based on new information. "They are learning," Princess Lyrelai said, standing beside Marcus. "You have taught them to think like humans. I hope it is enough." Queen Valestra joined them at the observation window. Outside, the Zephyrian defense fleet was taking positions. Hundreds of ships moved in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully coordinated chaos. "The enemy will reach our first defensive line in 6 hours, she said. "Are you ready, Marcus Chen?" Marcus looked at the approaching darkness that carried 1,000 ships of death. He thought about his home on Earth, about the family he might never see again, about the alien princess who had become his friend, and about the empire that had become his responsibility. "I am ready," he said. The battle for the survival of the Zephyrian Empire was about to begin. The battle began at dawn on Zephyros Prime. Marcus watched from the command center as the first wave of Devourer ships crashed into the Zephyrian defense fleet. Explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks. "Report," Queen Valestra commanded. "First defensive line is engaging the enemy," General Thyros announced. "Our ships are using random attack patterns as planned. The Devourers seem confused by our tactics." On the holographic display, Marcus could see the battle unfolding. Zephyrian ships attacked from impossible angles, used weapons that made no logical sense, and retreated when they should have advanced. To any normal military force, it would have looked like complete chaos, but it was working. The Devourer ships tried to adapt to each attack, but by the time they changed their defenses, The Zephyrian ships had already switched to completely different tactics. "Second wave incoming," an officer reported. "These ships look different. They have adapted to our first attacks." Marcus smiled. "Perfect. Signal all captains to switch to Plan 7. "What is Plan 7? General Thyros asked. "There is no Plan 7. That is the point. Each captain will make up their own strategy right now." The general looked horrified, but Queen Valestra nodded. "Do it." The second wave of battle was even more chaotic than the first. Zephyrian captains invented new tactics on the spot. Some ships linked together to form larger fighting units. Others split into tiny groups that swarmed around enemy vessels like angry insects. A few captains decided to ram their ships directly into enemy vessels, ejecting in escape pods at the last second. The Devourers had never seen anything like it. Their adaptive systems could not keep up with tactics that changed every few minutes. Ships that had just adapted to defend against lasers were suddenly attacked with gravity weapons. Vessels that had grown armor against missiles were hit by devices that turned their own metal hulls against them. For 6 hours, the battle raged across 3 star systems. Marcus watched as the Zephyrian forces pushed the Devourers back using pure unpredictability, but he also saw the cost. Hundreds of Zephyrian ships were destroyed. Thousands of brave soldiers died. "We are winning," Princess Lyrale said, standing beside Marcus. "Your strategy is working." "We are surviving," Marcus corrected. "That is not the same thing as winning." The real test came when the Devourer command ships arrived. These were massive vessels that looked like living cities. They carried millions of warriors and the most advanced adaptive technology in the galaxy. "They are analyzing our tactics," General Thyros reported. "Their main computers are processing every move we have made. In a few hours, they will be able to predict our strategies." Marcus had expected this. "Then we stop using strategies altogether." "What do you mean?" Marcus turned to Queen Valestra. "Give every ship captain complete freedom. No orders, no coordination, no plans. Just one objective: protect the Empire. Let them decide how to do it." "That is not warfare," General Thyros protested. "That is anarchy." "Sometimes anarchy is exactly what you need." Queen Valestra hesitated. This was the biggest gamble of her reign. If she gave up all control over her forces, anything could happen. They might win a glorious victory, or they might destroy themselves through friendly fire and confusion. But as she watched the Devourer command ships approaching, she realized she had no choice. "All ships," she announced over the communication system, "you are released from Central Command. Protect the Empire however you think best. Good luck." What happened next was the most beautiful and terrible thing Marcus had ever seen. Without orders to follow, the Zephyrian captains did things no military manual had ever suggested. They used cargo ships as weapons, turned mining equipment into shields, and created formations that looked like abstract art. Some captains decided to work together, forming spontaneous alliances with ships they had never met before. Others went completely alone, becoming one-ship armies that struck without warning. A few captains even convinced enemy ships to surrender by broadcasting human music that confused the Devourer computers. The Devourer adaptive systems tried desperately to find patterns in the chaos, but there were no patterns to find. Every Zephyrian ship was fighting its own unique war. "Impossible," General Thyros whispered as he watched the displays. This should not be working, but it was working. The Devourer fleet, which had conquered 12 civilizations through superior adaptation, was being torn apart by pure chaos. Their ships collided with each other as they tried to respond to attacks that made no sense. Their computers overheated trying to process tactical data that had no logic. The battle lasted 3 more days. When it finally ended, the Devourer fleet was in full retreat. Of the 1,000 ships that had attacked, fewer than 200 escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured by Zephyrian forces. Marcus stood in the ruins of the command center, exhausted and wounded from a piece of debris that had hit him during the final assault. Around him, Zephyrian officers celebrated their impossible victory. "You did it," Princess Lyrale said, helping Marcus to a chair. "You saved the Empire." "We all did it," Marcus replied. "Your people learned to fight like humans." That made all the difference. Queen Valestra approached them, looking older than Marcus had ever seen her. The stress of the battle had aged her, but there was something new in her silver eyes. "Respect. The debt is paid," she said simply. "You have given my people something worth more than your life. You have given us a new way of thinking." Over the following weeks, as the Empire celebrated its victory, Marcus learned just how much had changed. The rigid Zephyrian society was transforming. Citizens who had never questioned authority began asking why things were done certain ways. Artists created new forms of expression that mixed order with chaos. Scientists began experimenting with ideas that had been forbidden for centuries. "You have started a revolution," Princess Lyrelei told Marcus as they walked through the royal gardens. "My people are becoming more like humans." "Is that good or bad?" "It is necessary. We were dying slowly, trapped in our own perfection. Now we are alive again." The biggest change was in Princess Lyrelei herself. The war had transformed her from a sheltered royal into a confident leader. She had commanded rescue ships during the battle, saving crews from damaged vessels. She had also begun studying other alien cultures, preparing to become an ambassador to the galaxy. "I want to travel," she told Marcus. "I want to learn about other species the way I learned about humans. Will you come with me?" Marcus had been thinking about this question for days. The Zephyrian doctors had discovered that the biological bond between them was not permanent. It had been created by trauma and stress, not by any real physical connection. They could be separated safely now. He could go home to Earth. He could see his family again, return to his old life, forget about alien empires and space battles. That was what he had wanted for months. But Marcus had also learned something about himself. He was not the same person who had saved a dying princess in a damaged ship. He had become someone who could bridge the gap between different species, someone who could help others learn and grow. "I want to go home first," he said finally. "I want to see my family and tell them what happened. But then, yes, I will travel with you. The galaxy needs ambassadors who understand both order and chaos." Princess Lyrelei smiled. "My mother has already agreed to establish a new diplomatic corps, something that values both Zephyrian logic and human creativity. She wants you to lead it." Marcus laughed. "A few months ago I was just a mining engineer. Now I am supposed to be a galactic diplomat. A few months ago I was just a princess who had never left her homeworld. Now I am going to explore the galaxy." People change, Marcus, sometimes in wonderful ways. Queen Valestra had one final surprise for Marcus. When he went to say goodbye before leaving for Earth, she handed him a small device that looked like a crystal star. "What is this?" "A communication device. It will allow you to contact anyone in Zephyrian space instantly, across any distance. Consider it a gift from one friend to another." Marcus stared at the device, then at the Queen. "Friends, you have taught my people that former enemies can become allies. You have shown us that different ways of thinking can work together. If that is not friendship, what is?" When Marcus finally boarded the ship that would take him home to Earth, he was not the same man who had risked his life to save an alien princess. He was someone who had learned that the universe was full of possibilities, that different species could understand each other, and that sometimes the best way to help others was to share what made you different. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying him toward Earth and his family, Marcus looked back at Zephyros Prime one last time. In a few months he would return to begin his new job as a galactic ambassador. He would travel among the stars with Princess Lyrelei, learning about other species and helping them learn about humans. He had risked his life for an alien princess, and the Queen had refused to let him go. But in the end, Marcus realized he no longer wanted to escape. He had found something better than freedom. He had found a purpose that was bigger than himself. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and Marcus Chen, former Marine and mining engineer, was going to help explore it all.